Cabinet of Dominica will update the public on our work activities and afford the media the opportunity to question and interact with the government. We have made great strides in our road networks, housing, and health and wellness with the construction of the number of health centers, health and wellness centers across the country. You have heard from tourism, housing, education, and health. Today we will report to you on agriculture and sports, and of course some of the DNTF interventions across the country. But there is a need for us in Dominica to reduce vulnerability and to build greater resilience in all areas of our life. Tied to our holistic approach to health and wellness is sports. We believe that not only does sports provide opportunities for our sportsmen and sportswomen to develop their skills, but also provides healthy alternatives to our youth and a stress relief for spectators. We have been building hard courts and other facilities and rehabilitating a number of playing fields across Dominica. And all of this are being unfolded notwithstanding or in spite of the pandemic. There are a number of these interventions which both my colleagues will highlight today, which in many parts of the world, governments have decided because there's a cash flow problem, there is a reduction in revenue. Interventions in sports would not be considered a priority. But this is not the case, thank God, in the Commonwealth of Dominica. In this COVID-19 period and after the passage of Hurricane Maria, we'll all agree that agriculture has helped carry us through these crises and highlighted our need for food security. As such, we need to keep strengthening our commercial farming capabilities for volume, both at home and for export. But very importantly too, we need to encourage ourselves as residents and citizens to do our backyard gardening. That in a time of crisis shows us how important backyard gardening can be for so many of us in our country, indeed all of us in our country. While your government is providing the infrastructure and facilities, including schools, building health centers, building homes, fixing and building roads, construction of bridges, I wish to sound a call for us as citizens to take ownership of these things. We have to show our appreciation by taking care of them, by paying attention to a need for a clean environment and avoiding the temptations to litter, avoid vandalism, etc. Because we complain, oh, I want a basketball court, I want a playing field, and then the playing field and basketball court is given, and then you drive by in the next few months and it's vandalized. It is defaced. It is unused. After having spent $500,000, $750,000, $1 million, the same people who are asking for these things are not using it at all. So we have to be mindful of these investments. With regards to the international airport, plans are moving full speed ahead, and I shall update the nation in details very soon. Government will be commissioning another 6 or more health and wellness centers over the next few months. The construction on both the Marigot and the Dominica China Friendship Hospitals are progressing very well. In the case of the Dominica China Friendship Hospital, Construction is taking place while we are still providing all our services. And I really want to thank the staff at the hospital and the Ministry of Health and the many clients who make use of the facilities for their cooperation and patience and understanding during this construction phase. But we will all agree in Dominica that the construction of the Dominica China Friendship Hospital has no doubt enhanced the experience in a positive way at our hospital in Dominica. And one can only wait for when it is fully completed and all facilities are in place. What a wonderful experience, even if we're ill, we'll have. Especially when you're ill, you need to have a wonderful experience because if you're treated well and if you're in a good ambience, that is 50% of your rehabilitation. So we will look forward to this. Our vaccination efforts continue, and we want to urge those who are still reluctant, take it while you have it, and not want to take it when you are forced to have it, especially if you have to travel, and you're calling the Minister for Health the night before you travel and say, if you can give you a vaccine, please, because you have to travel to America or the UK tomorrow, and your flight is at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's a normal practice in Dominica, but let's take it. I want to commend the over 17,000 people who have taken their first dose of the vaccine. And that's a significant number in relation to our national population. So while we would like to have been at 25 or 30,000, but 17,000 plus is a good number. And as we go along, people are taking it. The Ministry of Health is taking the vaccines to the people. Last weekend, they were at the Maho market, and 130 or so people were vaccinated at the Maho market. And we'll take it to the bus stops and the bus terminals and to the business places. So we'll be taking the vaccines to people into their homes so that we can increase the number of people. And we must be, somebody told me that they are not taking it yet because those who are taking it will give herd immunity, so they'll benefit from that. That is not a way to look at it. The way to look at it is that take yours and encourage your neighbor to take his, and then we'll be in a better position for herd immunity and protect ourselves and protect each other and get our country to go back to a sense of normalcy going forward. We have concluded negotiations with the unions, and I want to thank the leadership of all the unions for their understanding, and of course to thank the negotiating team. I have heard the negotiating team say, or people say that the negotiating team, I believe the latter, are made of all women. That's why they were able to successfully conclude negotiations with the union with no murmur. So I'm not saying that, I don't, but we want to thank all those involved in the process. We are going through a challenging time like every other country. We thank God that we have been able to meet our needs as far as practically possible, especially the payment of salaries and pensions and gratuities, the National Employment Program, the people who 17 over have been receiving the allowances, people in the public assistance have been receiving the allowances. So we're making progress. Back in the day, even before the pandemic, sometimes we were slow or late rather with the payments to the NEP. Since the pandemic has begun, we've never been late with the payments to the NEP. They all get paid at the same time like everybody else. Because we recognize as a government that in difficult periods, it's important that we maintain the dignity of ourselves and human beings, that they can take home, as small as it is or as big as it is, a salary to put food on the table for their families and to pay the basic bills. Next time we will have the Minister for Public Works and the Minister for Governance who will update us on matters relating to the management of the respective ministries. So welcome and thank you. As I've said to you last time, ask the two ministers all the difficult questions, the easy ones you throw at me, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister. And as the Prime Minister has said to us, agriculture is the lifeblood of our economy. and agriculture continues to take us through every crisis that we have encountered. So at this time, I would like to introduce the Honorable Minister for Agriculture, Honorable Fidel Grant, as he presents to us this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Let me recognize the presence of the Honorable Prime Minister, other members of Cabinet, parliamentary secretaries, Acting Cabinet Secretary, Ms. Prevost, the viewers, media, good morning. The Ministry of Blue and Green Economy, Agriculture, and National Food Security continues to pursue policies and plans aimed at ensuring, 1, that nutritious food is readily available to all Dominicans, 2, that we remain the breadbasket of the region, and 3, that this sector remains the underpinning of our rural economies and the nation. Following the devastation of Hurricane Maria, the Honorable Prime Minister negotiated and obtained $67.5 million from the World Bank under the program Emergency and Agricultural Livelihoods and Climate Resilience Project. In early 2020, we were faced with the overwhelming challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. The long and short-term benefits of this project became even more prominent and timely. The government long-term commitment to and the investment in agriculture has been long established and has taken a new sense of urgency during the COVID-19 pandemic. For the purpose of this exercise here this morning, we will focus and update you on 3 main activities within the ministry. Firstly, progress under the World Bank funded project. This project contains 4 components. To date, we can report that we are well on our way to the successful completion of this project. Component A1, A2, and A3 as of March 30th, 2021. Crop component. Farmers have been receiving fertilizer, agrochemicals, small tools, and equipment. We have received a total of 3,274 applications under this component. To date, 2,906 have been approved and 2,617 have signed the beneficiary agreements. We have experienced some difficulties in the initial bid process for the tools, but we have completed a new bid and we are now awaiting approval of a new contract. Under this component, we will spend in excess of $4 million to provide useful tools to our farmers. Livestock. As of yesterday, 310 applications have been received from livestock farmers. 233 applications have been reviewed and 54 have been approved. Under this component, we'll provide building materials and an element of labor to livestock farmers for construction or improvement of their structures. This will be in 3 categories. Category 1, brand new structures. 2, retrofitting of existing structures. And 3, for structures which require less than $10,000 for repairs. Livestock farmers in all 7 regions will benefit under this program. Fisheries. To date, we have received 300 applications from fishers. There were 181 applications for engines, 115 applications for boats, and 4 applications for canoes. We can report to date 98 applications have been approved and 61 engines have been distributed. A critical item under this component is the building of our boats for fishers. Thus far, we have finalized specs for the mold with the naval architect, and we can report that we have, 1, begin to source protective equipment and gear for our boat builders, and that all boats will be built on island by our local boat builders who will be trained in further processes for enhancing their skills. We expect to receive our first set of boats in November of 2021. Subcomponent D, the Contingency Emergency Response Component, also known as CERC. We activated this component during the COVID-19 pandemic. To date, we can report that we have paid out in excess of $3.1 million to farmers across the country. 617 small farmers. Small farmers are defined as 0.25 acres to 2 acres, received $700 per farmer. A total of $431,900 was spent in this category. 882 medium farmers. Medium farmers are defined 2 or more acres but less than 5 acres, received $1,400. A total of $1,2,334,800 was spent in this category. 527 large farmers. Large farmers are defined as 5 acres or more, received $800. A total of $1,4,775,600. Restoration of key infrastructure in agriculture, livestock, and forestry. At this date of reporting, work is ongoing on the Central Livestock Farm at Londonderry, and this is progressing well. The scope of works include roofing and floor systems. 2, the DAPEX building, we have completed the roof and guttering systems. 3, we are now in process of awarding a contract for the construction of a new Northeast Region office at Londonderry. We also have ongoing work on a number of other projects, and these include 1, the irrigation systems at Salisbury, Cassie Bruce, Calibishi, and Fort Seja. Completion of works on the propagation center at Woodford Hill, the restoration of the Laplane office and the Cassie Bruce regional office, restoration of the propagation facility and citrus certification at Londonderry, and the rehabilitation of the forestry, silviculture facilities in Daly Sis and Glogomie Bells. Indeed, we continue to view agriculture and fisheries sector as one of the most significant sectors to the National Economic Plan. Therefore, we assist farmers who we consider backyard gardeners, or small-scale farmers. These farmers who did not qualify under the program after Maria were targeted during the COVID-19 pandemic last year. Thus far, micro-gardeners have received tools, fertilizer, and seeds in excess of $297,000 to date. This breakdown as follows. 188 small farmers receive a package valued at $400. 282 medium farmers received a package valued at $400. 135 large farmers received a package of $600. Even as we continue to diversify the economy, to grab new opportunities in tourism, ICT, and general investment, agriculture will remain the underpinning of our society. The policy of your government is that the industry is critical to our nation, that agriculture is taught and practiced at our primary school and high school, and the ministry continues to provide support to these schools. As of last year, we donated tools, equipment, and fertilizer and agrochemicals at a value of $12,378 to a number of schools and organizations. Agro-processing, a natural extension to primary agricultural activities, is required for the development of the agro-industrial sector. Under our public sector investment program, over $1.7 million was invested by this government for the rehabilitation and construction of agro-processing facilities. Currently, the project is implemented in 8 locations across the country. Location 1, the Daly Toloma Women's Group, Daly Sis. An amount of $286,049 was spent on this facility. This facility is expected to benefit 37 female farmers and 120 families in the Daly and Whitaker area. Facility number 2, Beaubois, Bellevue. This facility is to be used for essential oils. Over 150 farmers and their families in La Plaine, Daly Sis, presently benefit from this facility. Number 3, the Deepa Cassava Factory at Deepa at a tune of $175,360. Farmers and families in Deepa, Good Hope, and other farmers on the east are able to process their cassava at this facility. Facility number 4, the Easyside Cassava Bakery located in Sensi in the Kalinago territory. The contractor has completed all structural works on this project. Facility number 5, Daniel's Cassava Bakery in Salibia, Kalinago territory at a tune of $177,589. The building is 85% complete and equipment is pending for this facility. The cassava processing facility at Antrizel at Kingston, this facility cost a total of $198,337. The physical structure is 80% complete, and we look forward to this facility opening. Facility number 7, the Kalibishi Cassava Facility, at a tune of $245,335. This structure is 80% complete, and equipment is pending. The final facility, the cocoa drying facility located at Melvin Hall, was constructed at a cost of $386,137. All cocoa farmers will be able to use this facility to improve the quality of their drying. Each of these locations was strategically chosen based on the economic activities of the area. Because of the close proximity to farmers who cultivate traditional crops such as cassava, toloma, cocoa, bay oil, as well as herbs and spices, therefore saving time and transportation costs. The ministry has gone beyond merely identifying suitable locations for the intervention. Once the various agro-processing needs were identified, local contractors were engaged, thereby creating employment for the local residents. Communities were sensitized and agro-processors were trained on how to use these facilities. Training will continue and equipment will be procured and installed at all of these facilities. Your government continues to pursue and is committed to eradicate poverty, empower people, and strengthen the economy. And this is quite evident through our investments in agriculture. Upon complete rehabilitation and modernization of these agro-processing plants, our traditional crops and over 300 farmers and agro-processors can now add value to their produce and can improve on the quality of processed products and have better access to markets and improve the quality of life for themselves and their families. The White Potato Project. The Division of Agriculture, through its agricultural extension arm, is partnering with 185 farmers in the production of white potatoes. This initiative is an integral part of the Division of Agriculture's crop diversification program, geared at the development of the white potato subsector and critically fulfilling the ministry's mandate for ensuring national food security. The crop is concentrated in 4 agricultural regions where microclimatic conditions are favorable for production. These regions include Central, South, Northeast, and West. This national initiative is designed to generate and increase income among families and create employment. This heightened interest among farmers in producing the crop is evident by the increasing numbers of them who have participated in the establishment of the crop for the 2021 planting season. Farmers who have participated in the establishment of white potatoes have received inputs under the World Bank program as part of government's incentive package to assist farmers. A total of 969 bags were distributed among farmers. This level of support to farmers, in addition to technical assistance provided by the extension staff, represents and demonstrates the government's commitment to continue to work towards the development of the white potato sector. Currently, we are going through sampling, and we are expected to yield an estimated 288,750 pounds of white potatoes. We anticipate a monetary value of $360,937. at a minimum price at $1.25 per pound on the local market. The Ministry of Blue and Green Economy, Agriculture, and National Food Security is working in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade to facilitate the marketing of the crop on the local market. Dexia has already been engaged and provisions are already made to purchase the crop from farmers. It is expected that supermarkets will purchase from Dexia. The ministry is currently working with farmers to form a steering committee to establish a farmers' organization that will formalize and improve the coordination within the sector. It is expected that the organization will help the ministry in developing its mandate of food security through 1, increase white potato acreage by 100% or the equivalent to 64 acres, 2, increase productivity through the adaptation of modern technology, 3, improve dialogue among stakeholders, 4, improve data collection and dissemination among stakeholders, and 4, increase post-harvest initiatives to increase and improve on quality. Another instrumental initiative that the ministry is pursuing is the establishment of a white potato drying house, which will facilitate in the curing of white potatoes. This is especially important because a number of farmers have had their sheds and farmhouses and storage units damaged during the passage of Maria. These drying houses will significantly improve the quality of locally grown white potatoes in our supermarkets. Your government is committed to farmers and fisherfolk, and we continue to provide a multitude of incentives and concessions to farmers and fisherfolk. And I'm happy to report that these investments are bearing fruit. Thanks. We are well on our way to commencing construction of a modern tissue culture facility at 1 Mile. This project will be financed by a grant of $13 million from the People's Republic of China. On behalf of the Honorable Prime Minister, my cabinet colleagues, and Dominicans by extension, I express my profound thanks to the People's Republic of China to the commitment to Dominica. We also can report that in the month of May, bids will be open for the modernization and rehabilitation works of the Roseau and Marigot Fisheries Complex. The opening of the bids were delayed due to the fact that an officer of the government had to travel to Japan to be present for the opening of the bids. And due to the COVID-19 travel restriction, the progress was delayed. We thank the government and the people of Japan for this project, which will see an investment of $10 million into the modernization and strengthening of our infrastructure for fishing here in Dominica. By the introduction of smart agriculture practices and paying greater attention to the use of technology in the production process, agriculture remains an avenue for improving the standard for thousands of Dominicans. The sector continues to not only put nutritious food on our tables, but money in the pockets of our farmers. The sector will continue to thrive if we as consumers buy our local produce first. We continue to ask farmers to approach farming as a business in your day-to-day operations. Manage your finances and income like any other small business owner. We need consistent output, quality, and quantity to maintain current markets and, importantly, enter new markets. Your government, and by extension the ministry, remains ready to assist each of you farmers and fisherfolk. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for this very comprehensive review of the ongoing progress at the Ministry of Agriculture on a number of agricultural projects and also in the area of fisheries. As the Prime Minister said earlier, sports is very critical to our physical health, not just our physical, but our physical and mental health. Some of us are players and some of us are spectators, but sports is still very important to all of us. So at this time, we will invite Honorable Rosalind Paul, Minister for Sports, Culture, and Community Development, to make a presentation.
Good morning to all. I'm saying, I hope it's still morning. Let me recognize the Honorable Prime Minister, other members of Cabinet, the CAPSEC, permanent secretaries, and the media. I appreciate this podium. Most times the podium is taller than I. Even in the face of exogenous shocks and challenges, such as what is posed by the pandemic of COVID-19, our government continues to invest in our people to make life better for families and community. And the Ministry of Sports, Culture, and Community Development continues to implement projects and programs in sports, in culture, to improve community life, and we contribute to that mandate. Today, however, I will focus on some ongoing projects, more specifically under the Basic Needs Trust Fund program and various sports facilities. The Basic Needs Trust Fund program is the flagship collaborative undertaking between the government of Dominica and the Caribbean Development Bank, the aim of which is to reduce the vulnerability of targeted communities through the provision of economic and social infrastructure and capacity building for enhancing of livelihoods. The program focuses on the following key sectors: education and human resource development, basic community access and drainage, water and sanitation, poverty alleviation, vulnerable youth, and gender. We are currently implementing mainly Basic Needs Trust Fund 9 program and one project under Basic Needs Trust Fund 8. The Basic Needs Trust Fund program, we have 8 projects, as I said, ongoing under the Basic Needs Trust Fund program, and they are listed here, as you can see on the slide. We have the Mon Prosper Primary School Security and Sports Facility upgrade to a tune of $548,246. Woodford Hill Playing Field upgrade and pavilion, just over $1 million. Cassie Bruce Secondary School Production Facility, $632,217. Dominica Community High School Extension, over $1.2 million. Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities Office Extension, $929,396. Mon Prosper Water Supply. This is the largest, most costly project, $2.1 million. And Grand Fund Storm Drains, approximately $1.2 million. Under BNTF 8, we also have just completed the Bacatel Font Saint-Jean Water Supply Rehabilitation Project. As I said, for the Grand Font Storm Drains, the project is 87% complete, and it focuses on the basic community access and drainage sector. And I just give the cost of almost $1.2 million. The system includes catch pits, retaining walls, weep holes, road reconstruction, garbage retaining screens to facilitate proper cleaning, and pedestrian walkways over the drain. It goes through the entire community. And because of that, the community expects to see an end of flooding of their homes and properties. This was a common occurrence, but with this drain, we expect relief in this regard. The project has provided direct employment for 17 persons, 12 of whom is from the local community, and a total of 221 households consisting 629 residents are to benefit from this project. The project is scheduled for completion by July 16, 2021. The Mount Prosper water supply. The project focuses on the water and sanitation sector and is at a contractual cost of $2.1 million. And it is the largest of the 7 projects undertaken under BNTF 9 program. The main works consist of 4,600 feet of pipelines supported by concrete pillars, the construction of 60,000-gallon storage tank, the construction of new pump station fitted with an electrical pump, and which later on will be powered by solar energy. A total of 226 households is expected to benefit from that project. This is a very important project for the Mount Prosper community. It addresses a long-standing issue. It will improve health access to adequate and reliable supply of potable water. And very importantly, it will support agriculture. We know Mount Prosper is well known for agricultural production and involves many women there are involved in farming. So it will also benefit the agricultural sector. The project is scheduled for completion by July 6, 2021. Woodford Hill Playing Field, upgrade and pavilion. The works include the construction of field subsurface and drainage, outfield grading, leveling and compacting works, grassing, and the retaining works and construction of the access road, a concrete roadway, and line drains to the playing field. Owing to the exemplary implementation of the project, which is about 98% complete for the outfield, the pavilion, which was not allocated for at first, is now added. So we have now started the pavilion for this project. So the community is benefiting from the pavilion as well. Casibro Secondary School production facility. The project focuses on education and human resource development, and the main works consist of the construction of well-equipped chicken coop, slaughterhouse, and greenhouse to meet the requirements of the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate, CSEC, and Caribbean Vocational Qualification Program, CVQ. The project is 78% complete. So all of those are shown on the screen. The Mount Prosper Primary School Security and Sports Facility upgrade. And we can see here the works that have been done. And the project is 98% complete. The 2 outstanding activities for realizing the full completion of the project are the application of the acrylic surfacing markings to the hardcourt and the installation of lights. Both activities are scheduled to be in place by April 13, 2021. So this project has it's a two-pronged project. It seeks for the security of the school, so there is fencing of the school, the building of a soakaway, improving the area in terms of security, having a security hut at the entrance, and it includes wall and fencing around both the school, as I said, and the hardcourt, and the upgrading of the hardcourt for the benefit both of the school and community. The Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities Office Extension. The project focuses as I said, on the extension for training and development for these people. The main works include the demolition of the pre-existing timber building section to cater for the extension of an elevated floor with concrete element, including of concrete roof, providing approximately 918 square feet of additional office space. And this is very important. This is a vulnerable group of people in Dominica, but they are not disabled. They have physical challenges, and it is a way to continue to empower these people, this organization, persons with disabilities, and their clientele. And the government of Dominica continues to work with this group to advance their development in Dominica. There will be the construction of external and internal ramps and external stairs, including fire escape. There will be installation of electrical lift and construction of a timber stage 10 feet by 18 feet. So we ensure that they have access, people with physical challenges can access the building. The finished project shall significantly enhance the functional capabilities, the comfort, the safety, and well-being of the membership of the Dominica Association of Peoples with Disabilities, and in fact, all of the people that they serve and represent. The project will, or is expected to be complete by May 16, 2021. And we see the stage at which this project is on the screen. The Dominica Community High School Extension, and again, we see how far this project is. The project focuses on the development, education, and human resource. It falls within this sector, and it is the second largest of the 7 projects on the BNTF 9. The works include the construction of a new block consisting of a 2-floor extension, a ground floor and first floor, each comprising of 500 square feet of floor space. And we expect this project to be complete by June 16th. However, provision is also being made for the extension of another floor for a future auditorium to allow students to foster their artistic expression and to develop well-rounded life skills. The project also makes provision for computers, and we know that this is very important for the creative development and innovation, and as we move towards a digital economy, our vision of a dynamic Dominica. We expect this project to be complete again by June 16, 2021, and it is 63% complete. The Bacatel Font Saint-Jean Water Supply Rehabilitation Project was completed in February 2021, and it was at a cost of $973,422.80. And we will be commissioning this shortly. Already, there have been several submissions for BNTF 10. There were over 100 proposals were received for Basic Needs Trust Fund 10. The target sectors remain basic community access and drainage, water and sanitation, education and human resource development. The maximum for any one project is $700,000 or EC $1.886 million. And the established criteria has been promoted, so these projects are being evaluated on the established criteria. So soon from now, we will be seeing implementation of Basic Need Trust Fund 10, and we know the impact of this project. That is why we had 108, I think, applications. We move on to a number of sports projects that are ongoing at this point in time. So we had 9 Basic Needs Trust Fund projects. 2 of these were sports projects, but we have other sports projects that we are working on. The Windsor Park Sports Stadium infrastructure and lighting project is ongoing. It is at a cost, or it will cost the government of Dominica an investment of $306,357. Right now, we are procuring the lights, and the roof has already been prepared, and we are procuring the lights. We are working on the outfield. Work has progressed very well on the outfield. We have installed internet. We will be working on we are also working on the installation of the electronic scoreboard. The scoreboard is here, but we're working on the frame for its installation. Actually, this was damaged, so we have to undertake the base, work on the concrete base, and also a steel frame that, so soon from now, we will have the electronic scoreboard installed. In terms of the multipurpose sports complex at Stock Farm, it is with the developers, MMCE, and they are reviewing, evaluating submissions. We had to review, again, the designs, and there was already tendering, but it was above what was estimated. So we had to go back to tendering, and they're reviewing other submissions. Covering the Massac basketball court, all of us who pass very frequently in the area will see that we are nearing completion of the courts, and here it is. And we are investing over $2 million in this project. All the surface, the equipment, everything is there for installation. So we expect within the next few weeks to have this project complete. You would see that washrooms and change rooms are being constructed right now. And subsequent to that, the floor, the surface will be installed. It's already here, and this will be done shortly. The rehabilitation of the Geneva playing field is ongoing. It is at a cost of $500,000. We had a contribution from the Dominica Football Association that we appreciate very much, of $150,000. And government is continuing. Government has signed a contract for over $400,000. And even as we speak, work is ongoing on the Geneva playing field. The rehabilitation of Colliho playing field, the Public Works and the Technical Services Department is reviewing the scope of works right now so that we continue on this project. The Windsor Park Sports Stadium, those of you, many of you may have had a view and noticed that we are doing the markings and surfaces of the we are speaking now of the 3 hard courts, yes. We have 3 hard courts. One will serve as a basketball court, one for volleyball and netball, and the other for lawn tennis. And works are progressing there very well. They have marked one of the courts, and shortly they will be marking the second court, or they have started marking the second court. We also have the construction of the rehabilitation works going on at the sports stadium that I spoke of already. In addition to that, the government has been investing in a number of facilities around the island, collaborating with the parliamentary representatives of various communities and supporting and partnering. So the government ensures that youths around the island has a facility where they can go and play, and even me and you, if we need to ensure that we remain healthy and well. When we speak sport development, we also speak youth development. It is synonymous. And so there are a number of hard courts that have been upgraded or built around the island. I can speak of the Paybush hard court, the Savantpai hard court. You have the hard court in Wesley. You have Benz being upgraded, and Pichley hard court as well. So youth around the island has access to these necessary sporting facilities that they continue to grow and develop in this area. And we also have the sports division and a number of sports clubs working with these young people around the island to ensure that the sports remain, our sportsmen are catered for, and they can contribute to their development and the development of the country. And right now we have our national football players who have traveled to Dominican Republic, and I must commend them. They have done pretty well against the Panama team, which is a very professional team. So I think they have done well. They are winners in their own right. And I want to take the opportunity to commend them for their performance so far. They have done very well. And you would notice that there is much growth and development in the area of sports in Dominica for the investment made by the government of Dominica and a number of partners like the Dominica Football Association and other clubs around the island. I want to commend all of these partners in undertaking or investing in particular in our young people. I also want to draw to the attention or let us note that as Minister of Sports, Culture and Community Development, I really, really want to encourage, in fact, our sportsmen and women, our community people, to get vaxxed. When we speak sports, we speak cultural events, we speak community activities. It means bringing people together. So most of the activities that my ministry would be involved in means bringing people together for socializing, for entertainment, and so on. So it is very, very critical that we get vaxxed so that we can have our national, our regional and international games right here in Dominica, and even our local games that bring people together so that we can protect each other, so that we can get our country back to normal. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Again, another very comprehensive presentation. And as we have seen, as the Minister has said, the BNTF projects are going to be very far-reaching and will have high impact in the community. And we can clearly see from the presentation on sports that there is an exciting future ahead for sports in Dominica. At this time, we will open up for questions from the media for the Minister for Agriculture and the Minister for Sports. The Prime Minister is also here, but he has already instructed where the hard question should go. So, media, who would like to start?
Hi, good afternoon. A question to the Minister for Agriculture. What is the status of the banana industry? Oh, dry pending DBS radio, I apologize. Question to the Minister for Agriculture. What is the status of the banana industry in Dominica now in relation to exports and the number of farmers involved? Do you think there's a future for Dominica's banana industry?
While the minister responds, do we have any other questions for agriculture? Can we take 2 questions? Yes.
Rhonda Luke, freelance journalist. Also to the Minister of Agriculture as it pertains to banana, we know that in 2017, a banana unit was established. Can you bring us up to date as to how successful that unit has been since its establishment? Also, to the Minister of Agriculture, our pesticides officers are calling for new pesticides legislation. They're saying what we have, they're currently outdated, and we're hearing that a new draft legislation has been presented to the government. Can you bring us up to date as to what is the update on that draft legislation that has been presented to you?
Thank you. Minister?
Good morning again. As it relates to the banana industry, as you would have expected, would have suffered some sort of damage some slowed down momentum in terms of export. And this is because of, as we know, banana is usually for persons in the tourism industry. A lot of ripe bananas are used in that industry. And our primary markets, Antigua and St. Kitts, which are largely dependent on tourism, has slowed down and high unemployment. So what you find is that, yes, we do have a banana industry. It is functioning. We have seen some increase in exports over the last few months, but our farmers have suffered some loss because of the reduction in exports. As it relates to the banana unit is functioning. We continue to provide support to our farmers in terms of spraying. That is a function largely on the ministry, so we pay the sprayers and we purchase the oil. For our larger farmers, we sometimes provide the oil at a subsidized price to them. And as it relates to the pests and diseases, as it is now, we recently, and as we do every year, we appoint pesticides inspectors. So we have a number of persons in the various regions going out and inspect for the various pests and diseases. As it relates to the new legislation, that is something that we are discussing. We have sought help from a few organizations, namely ICA and the FAO, as it relates to the new legislation and passing it to assist our farmers. But we recognize and we are aware as a ministry that pests and disease is a concern for our farmers, and we are looking to strengthen not only the legislation, but our staffing at the ministry as it relates to pests and diseases and the plant quarantine unit. Thank you.
Yeah, another question for the Minister of Agriculture. In the Woodford Hill area, we know that the international airport is being constructed there. With a number of farmers moved from that area, do you see it affecting Dominica's agriculture in any way?
Can you just repeat the question, please?
Oh, the international airport is being constructed in the Woodford Hill Wesley area. Do you see that affecting agriculture, Dominica's agriculture, in any way?
No, the airport is not affecting agriculture in any way in the country or in that specific area. As it is now, we have about 77 farmers that have been compensated in terms of crop compensation as it relates to the airport. We have about 47 core farmers that we have to relocate. What the government is doing is providing state lands at concessionary rates in terms of a lease for these farmers. In terms of the Ministry of Agriculture, we are also providing support, technical assistance, fertilizer, agrochemical, so that these farmers can restore their existing plots as quickly as possible. So the agriculture remains unaffected due to the international airport. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for agriculture or any general questions for sports? Okay, sports, hold on. Okay, go ahead. Stand. Can you stand and introduce yourself and ask your question, please?
Alia Martin, Government Information Service. Question for the Minister of Agriculture. You've spoken in capacity of the as the Minister of Agriculture, but can you tell us, just give us an insight on developments going on in your constituency?
Just some clarification. Insight into the constituency or insight
The developmental projects
into the constituency?
in your constituency.
Okay. As it relates to the Wesley constituency, we have quite a few things that we have ongoing as we speak. One of the key areas for the constituency, as you all know, is agriculture. So what we have been doing is the rehabilitation of farm access roads, because it's critical that farmers have access to their farms. In relation to housing, ongoing, we have a number of houses being constructed by the government for persons on their individual properties. And in the area of Woodford Hill, we should see construction soon for 30 apartment-style, tongue-style apartment houses. As it relates to Wesley, we have done some considerable work in terms of the construction of 50 homes in the Londonderry area. We have done some soil testing, and construction should commence soon as it relates to housing. As it relates to sports, we heard from the Minister for Sports as it relates to the development of the Woodford Hill playing field in excess of $1 million. We recently refurbished the Wesley basketball hard court. In the near future, sometime next month, we should see the installation of goalposts and at the Londonderry playing field. So that is as it relates to sports. In terms of preparation for the international airport, in the coming months, we should see a number of initiatives roll out in terms of supporting the community. One of the key areas that we are focused on right now would be training of our young people so that they could take advantage during construction and after construction of the airport. Thank you.
Kimani Seja, Carry News. One more question regarding agriculture. In terms of the National Abattoir, can you give us an update? I know a number of initiatives were done in terms of helping young people raise poultry and all of that to contribute to the success of the National Abattoir. Can you give us an update on how that is going and if it's making an impact in terms of poultry and other meats on the market locally?
Currently at the abattoir, we provide fresh local pork and fresh local chicken. What I would urge consumers is to let us continue to buy from the abattoir, because that provides direct support to our poultry and livestock farmers, mainly pig. In terms of operations, the abattoir is fully operational. We have a complement of 20 staff currently at the abattoir on contract. Recently, sometime last week, we sold in excess of 200 pounds of chicken breast to our local franchise, and we are hoping that we see this strengthen in the coming weeks and coming months ahead. Like I said earlier, the abattoir belongs to the people of Dominica, and the only way the abattoir is successful, the only way the farmers are successful is if, as citizens, we continue to purchase from the abattoir. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I believe we had some questions for sports. Ms. Pending? Yes.
One of the burning issues in sports has to do with sportsmen and women getting time off from their jobs to represent Dominica. Where are we in terms of legislation to facilitate national players who have to represent their countries abroad? Their country abroad.
Thanks. I believe we have another question. Yes.
I have about 4 questions for the Minister of Sports, so I'm not sure if we're going to just list it all together.
We'll take a few of them, at least 3 questions for the Minister, and then we can continue.
Okay, no problem. So what I'm hearing, Minister of Sports, from the DFA officials is that the government of Dominica has not provided passport or citizenship to second-generation Dominicans who can aid our country to when we go out and perform in regional tournaments. Can you tell me if such statement is true, and if so, why government has taken the decision to not do so? An additional question, recently we're also hearing that the national men's senior team who recently went to the Dominican Republic, they were not allowed to practice in the Windsor Park Sports Stadium, and they were forced to practice at the Dubla playing field. Can you guys provide any reason why this was the case, and any assurance to our players in the future that this will not happen? So these are the 2 questions for now.
Okay, so we have 3 questions. We have the...
With regards to time off, government workers, public officers are given time off, and they are paid as well while they go to represent Dominica. This includes those who are currently in the Dominican Republic. They were given time off and they were paid. They are being paid even while they are out there. And I think the Dominica Football Association assisted where the private sector is concerned, but where public sector is concerned, the government supports this initiative, their participation. In terms of use of the stadium, you would have heard me when I present that we are undertaking works on the outfield in the stadium at that time. So it was not possible to allow them to practice while this is going on. But you would know, you and I would both know that football has been played at the stadium. So it's a matter of scheduling, but in this instance, it was because of the ongoing works. Okay. So these are the 2 questions, and
the second generation question.
Yes, the Prime Minister is going to deal with that.
But well, before the PM comes, I just wanted to find out, because Dominica's second game in the World Cup qualifying had to be played in Dominica. There seem to have been some issues as it relates to that. So Dominica was forced to stay in the Dominican Republic. Can you tell us what happened? One second, Madam Minister. Also, we have 2 upcoming games scheduled for June. Will we be having those games in Dominica come June?
To my understanding, the decision to have the game in Dominican Republic was beyond us. I think it had to do with COVID-19 pandemic and its implications. So it did not have, I do not think it had anything to do with us or our decision. Secondly, in terms of June, I think there has been discussion with further games to be held right here, and we are making provision for that.
I can stay here, right?
Your choice.
Fine. All right, thank you. In respect to second generation Dominicans, they're not entitled to citizenship under our laws. We have in the past facilitated Dominicans who find themselves in that category to allow them to be on a national team. I am aware of one particular case. So I'm not aware of cases this time around, but I'm aware of one particular case. And I believe that this may have fell through the cracks largely because of communication issues between the Ministry of National Security and the sporting organization. So I think that was basically the reason. And I think time ran out on the process, but it was not a situation where the government was not prepared to facilitate this particular request in this particular case. But based on the laws of Dominica, they're not entitled. So it's not an entitlement. It would be at a discretion of the government, recognizing that this person's parents would have been Dominicans, or grandparents would have been Dominicans, and they would wish to play on a national team for Dominica, and on that basis, we have facilitated requests in the past, and we're prepared to facilitate requests in the future.
But PM, maybe you missed the preamble in the question, and she asked, is Dominica going, or is your government considering going to Parliament? We know it's not an entitlement. She's asking if government is considering going to Parliament to facilitate, to ensure that that is
Well,
legislated?
Well, that is a wider national discussion that one would have to look at and to make a determination whether this is something that the country would want to do. I can't give the view of the government on this particular matter, but this would have to be for national consultation and to decide whether this is something that the country should adopt. And if the country decides to adopt it, then it will have to go to Parliament to have the necessary changes to our laws to allow for it to happen. But I don't want anybody to have the impression, wrongly, that these people are entitled by law, and therefore the government refused to give it to them. Though they're not entitled in law, the government did not refuse to give it to them, because the government has done that in the past, and the government is prepared to do so in the future. I believe that there was a communication problem, and I believe there was an issue of the process of making the request in respect to the documentation. Because at the end of the day, we have to appreciate this is citizenship. This is the highest consideration of any country, and it has to be done properly, judiciously, and respecting the high order of citizenship. So I don't want anybody to have the impression that it is automatic and all we needed to do was to get the immigration department to issue a passport to this person. No, that's not the case, no. But we're prepared to do so, and I agree maybe it's something that we want to look at, but we must not look at the issue of going to Parliament in a very narrow sense because of sports, because if you cannot say, well, if you play for a national team, then you become discriminatory in the process. It would have to be for every second generation Dominican. So it's a broader consideration, and not just in the narrow sense of one person every 20 years or every 15 years who wants to play in Dominica's national team and would need citizenship to be able to do so. But this is something we've done. Certainly in my time as Prime Minister, we've done so. For the Olympics and for other national teams, we've facilitated Dominicans second, and even third generations. I remember one particular case of third generation.
I want to look at the situation up in Stock Farm. We have the Stock Farm football complex, lower down, and we have this much talked about controversial other complex that is just there, just lying there. Can we get an update as to what is the position as it relates to that, please?
Well, just to say that facility did allow Dominica to host its first international netball tournament when it was constructed. This government created history by being the first country, well, Dominica, hosting an international event where netball is concerned. We have clear plans for the construction of the indoor sports facility. As the minister indicated, we went to tender. The tenders came back way higher than the in-house estimates for the construction. There was a decision that we could reduce on the designs and the engineering for the basement. That would not have any negative impact on the playing facilities itself. That was done, and the minister has indicated that we'll go back to tender to see where the bids will get us. But we felt that it would have not been in the country's interest to spend so much money on the facility if we could redesign certain aspects of it and achieve our objectives within the price range that the government was considering. But this is an important project for us. You know better than me this government's commitment to sports and sports development. I mean, any major sporting facility you speak about in Dominica was done by this government, from the stadium to Benjamin's Park, to Geneva, to improvements to many basketball courts, new construction of basketball courts. I don't think any government before this one would have spent more than 10,000 or 15,000 on any sporting facility in Dominica. And now we're spending millions. In Woodford Hill, for example, you indicated over $1 million. In Grand Fond, we spent in excess of $1.5 million on the playing facility, not to include the acquisition of several acres of land from private persons in the community. And the list goes on. It will take us maybe until the day that Christ is risen to speak about sports development. And the cock hasn't crowed twice, three times yet, so it took us a long time.
To the Minister of Sports, we have seen and heard the efforts of the public to assist Mr. Tyrone Theophil with his second surgery. We know that in the first instance, government provided support to Mr. Theophil. Can you tell us right now, is government prepared to do anything moving forward for this young man? And additionally, I'm so sorry, it also raises the question on government-led insurance for our national athletes. Will anything be done as well?
I'll leave the insurance question to the minister, but I will deal with the Tyrone Theophil question. When we help people in these instances, I don't like talking about it publicly. We do so out of the benevolence of our heart and our commitment to the citizens. But you asked me a question, and I will endeavor to assist, to respond. And I've spoken to the Parliament for Point Michel, and communicated to the family and to Mr. Theophil himself. He has tried to meet me a couple of occasions, and he's indicated he wants to meet me to say thanks. I don't feel that necessary because we don't, we do it because, we're committed to our people. And I'll admit him on this, but we're committed to assisting him in his complete rehabilitation. I know they've been engaging in fundraising activities and so forth. And one of the things he has said, he sent a message to me to say that he wanted to come to us for additional help, having raised some himself for the efforts. But whatever is required for his rehabilitation, the government of Dominica is committed to assisting him. I think he's been an exemplary young person who has contributed immensely to Dominica, and I think Dominica owes it to him in his time of need. And so, absolutely, we're committed to his complete rehabilitation, whatever the cost of that would be.
And on the topic of government-led insurance, Minister, as I have you here on your portfolio culture, can you bring us up to speed as to what is the work on the Arawak House of Culture and the Old Mill Cultural Center? Can you bring us up to date as to how the work is?
The Arawak House of Culture involves quite a lot of work, and very intricate work has been going on within the building. We are currently preparing to do the ceiling, but we have done all of the cladding inside the Arawak House of Culture. We have put in the air conditioning. We have just finished the lighting, and we are going to procure the ceiling tiles for installation. The
Okay, so a time frame of 2 to 3 months for the Arrow House of Culture, but how about the Old Mill Cultural Center? Can an update also be provided on that?
This is also a project with, as I said, with this is also a project that we are undertaking, and there has been some delay, but it is an ongoing project as well. To build the coverage for the extension of the stage. So this we are currently preparing for.
A final question for the minister in relation to the artists of Dominica. We know that there were questions asked. There was a meeting with government and the artists, I think at least about the future of artists here. Was there anything concrete decided that might be on stream for artists? Should I give her the mic?
We are partnering with the OAS on a project to propel the creative industries in Dominica. And so we've done a dialogue with all the stakeholders, and it is with a view to put in place the necessary framework that would advance creative industries in Dominica. So the dialogue was just the first step in the process of an ongoing project.
That's it. Okay, I will ask, no questions? More questions? Yeah, go ahead, please. Oh, sorry.
So, Prime Minister, we know, of course, that every year our post-budget planning, budget planning, it starts in the month of March. We know that you typically meet with the various ministers and the different stakeholders. Can you tell us this year, will we be having any of the post-budget, pre-budget town hall meeting given the light of COVID? First question. You have a question?
Another question for you. In terms of the World Bank project, we know that the World Bank said 67 or over $60 million was allocated for budget support. What areas does government plan to use those funds for?
Thank you. No question, please?
Finally. Well, this is the first meeting that we are having with you for this opportunity, Prime Minister, since this letter was sent, which has stirred much reaction from the general public. We know that following the ruling of the CCJ, you mentioned that you were not going to interfere, you're just going to let the justice system flow. So right now, the public is asking, were you aware that a letter would be sent from your lawyer, and what was your reaction to it?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, and I never pretend to be things I'm not, so I will not pretend to be one today. But we have to be very clear as to what is the ruling of the CCJ. People are talking as if the CCJ has ruled on the substantive matter which have been brought before the magistrate court. The CCJ simply said that the magistrate court has jurisdiction over this matter. Simple as that. Simple as that. And I believe that it's important that people read the Constitution as it relates to matters like this. So this is simply what the CCJ has ruled on a question of jurisdiction. So the misinformation that is taking place is unfortunate in respect to this particular matter. But the letter that has been written by councils for the respondents is provided for within the Constitution. So it's not, one should never be seen as an interference. No, it's interference. The Constitution provides for it, for one to make that representation. So we must not, I don't think we need to confuse the issues. But I do not want to speak, as you've seen, I've avoided speaking publicly on this matter in any details or the technical issues on this matter. But this government from 2005 have been subjected to dozens of petitions before the courts, and every one of them, for the full process, for the full extent of the judiciary or the judicial system, every court has ruled that the matters that have been brought before this Labour Party and elected officials are of no merit and have been fishing expeditions. But it's interesting that those who win the seats on the opposition side always feel that they were okay to win. I mean, how you tell me you want to challenge Roosevelt Skerrit in the Vickers constituency? with a 95% pooling of the votes, it's laughable, you know, to say the least. But this is what we've been subjected to for every election. Every election we've been subjected to thing. We've had situations where the opposition challenged on the issue of dual citizenship, while at the same time, the leader of the party then, Mr. Green, was an American citizen who never used a Dominican passport throughout his time in the Parliament of Dominica. So it's you know, sensible people, I believe, you know, will see through these matters. And those who want to be blinded by ignorance, then they will see it in a particular way. But every instance where we've gone and we defended ourselves, like every other citizen would defend himself if any matter were brought against him. So this is where we are in respect of it. But I would rather leave these kind of questions to the respondents' lawyers to deal with, as that's what lawyers are professionally trained to do, to deal with the semantics and the technical issues of the interpretation of the law. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. PME, I did not want to go down that road, but since you made a comment as it relates to that, I'm looking at the judgment, and you made one of the comments that you make, you are very wrong. And because I have there the 45-page judgment that says the following order: the appeal is dismissed, the following orders of the Court of Appeal is affirmed, namely, 1, the complainants filed or the complaints filed by the respondents and the summonses issued by the magistrate's court are reinstated, and the chief magistrate shall proceed to assign a magistrate to hear the complaints filed by the respondents. So I am not sure the comments that you just made, they are in order. I am just looking at what was said by the Chief Justice.
Why was the CCJ moved? The CCJ was moved to determine whether the magistrate court had jurisdiction over this matter and whether this matter should not be dealt with via petitions, which are provided for. That's what the court was moved for. So if the matter was on stay at the magistrate court, then the CCJ ruled that the matter has jurisdiction at the magistrate court, then you expect that the matter will be reinstated at the magistrate court for it to be heard. So that's essentially what the CCJ is saying in its ruling, because the CCJ was moved to determine whether the magistrate court had jurisdiction over such a matter. The CCJ ruled, yes, we don't necessarily agree with the CCJ ruling, but we respect the CCJ ruling, as we've always done in respect to the rulings of the courts where the government is concerned. Because there are learned judges, retired, and justices, and queens and senior counsels who have different views. So the law can be interpreted by different groups of people differently, you know, because it comes into an interpretation. And what we respect, absolutely. This is why you will never get me or any minister or anybody within the Labour Party's legal team or otherwise who will criticize any judge, any magistrate, any court ruling. We will say we don't agree, but we respect the authority and the decision of the courts. And in this case, we respect it. We may not agree with it, but we have to respect it, and that is where the matter is. So what you have read is basically saying that the matter has to be reinstated and placed on the court's agenda, the court's schedule, and can be heard by the magistrate court. So this is simply, but you have to determine, you have to understand why was the CCJ moved. The matter was determined by the local judge that the magistrate court had no jurisdiction over this matter. It was appealed. The appeals court ruled that they did with one dissenting voice. There was a dissenting voice on the bench of 3 by female Justice Blendman, and the matter was taken to the CCJ. The CCJ ruled that there is jurisdiction, and that's where it is. But people are given the impression, knowingly or unknowingly, maliciously or unmaliciously, that it has ruled that the matter has been brought by the magistrate court, that, so Skerrit should clear his desk and a change of government and so on. That's the impression that some people are doing. As I said, I leave law to those who are trained and qualified in law to interpret the law, but from my understanding of the situation, that is what the situation is. I want to say briefly, quickly before we end, there's been talk in the public, as you know, I've seen reports on your new Nature Isle news online in respect to concerns raised by people about the government's re-engagement of retired people in the public service. Now, I have many cautions to us in Dominica about these things. We are young, strong now. Eventually, we'll get, by the grace of God, to retirement age. The retirement age in Dominica, people can retire in the public service at age 55. We're increasing it to 60, eventually I believe to 65 over a gradual period. But based on the earlier situation in respect to the public servants, people chose to retire because there was a choice. You could either retire at 55 or you could retire at 60. At 55, you still have a long way to go before you can say that you're rested and so forth. 55, you're still young. You look like how old are you? I mean, you can't. So you want to go home and sit at your home now because you're 55? You can't lie? So, but what I believe that, so you're going to need the technical and professional skills of people beyond the age of retirement. And I do not think that we should frown on the re-engagement of people who are retired to continue providing service to the country. When you look at nursing, for example, and we have been, like every other country in the world, our nursing numbers have been depleted by recruitment from the UK, from Canada, from the United States. There's no country in CARICOM that can compete with Her Majesty's Treasury, or the US Treasury, or the federal government of Canada's Treasury. We can't compete with these people. These hospitals, if they were to have a GDP much higher than many other countries within the Caribbean and so forth. So, this is a big whale, the length of a coaster against a sprat, in this thing. But we need nurses, and therefore we have been recruiting nurses who are retired to come back to work. They're doctors that have retired, and we brought them back on contracts to provide services to Dominicans. So the practice of re-engaging people who have retired is not something new, and it should not be something that we should frown upon. And I don't think it is really denying anybody of any opportunity per se. What we have discussed in the Cabinet Tuesday gone is to direct the Secretary of the Cabinet, the Chief Personnel Officer, and the Financial Secretary to look at a policy that deals with the re-engagement of people who are retired in the public service. Because I am of the considered view, it is not yet a firm government position, though there is unanimity within the Cabinet, but we have not taken a decision on it because we have to be advised on it in writing, that if we're to bring back somebody on retirement in the public service, we should avoid placing those persons in established positions. So that you do not, so somebody who has been waiting for somebody to retire for 10 years, and then you have a farewell party and person a little wine and a little cake, and then the person says, well, I'll see you guys next month. That person will be waiting for 10 years for that little position there. I can understand the person's emotional state and almost feeling like they could choke on the butter cake and some wine. But on a serious note, it's something I believe we need to look at. Maybe re-engage the people, but not to engage them in an established position that you could hold it for an undue period of time and deny somebody who's been waiting. So in the case of the Princery, I know Mr. Pierre very well. He's a very nice guy. But I'm sure Mr. Pierre may have been in the slips or even still made on for some time, waiting for a catch. And there was a outside edge, and then it happened to go to second slip, but he is in first slip. So and he was not agile enough to catch it. So I understand I've met him. I've met with him. Not in this last case, but before. And I think it's a matter of time that whoever is decided by the Public Service Commission to fill that position, then the matter will be given to them. So I think people have to learn to work together. This is not our private enterprise. We are employees and not employers, and therefore we must not behave as if the place belongs to us, and then we can determine for ourselves, by ourselves, what should be done by the employer, and so forth. Not even there are many people who can open the fridge in their home how they want, but they want to behave as if they want to control places that do not belong to them. So I think that there's too much of a hoopla these days on things that really should not be given that kind of attention, honestly. Oh, sorry, my friend. Sorry. Yes, we will have consultations. This has become a fixture in this government. Certainly since this Labour Party came into office. Prior to that, my friend, you're young. Prior to that, ministers, and if the Minister of Finance wasn't the Prime Minister as well, would hear the budget speech for the first time when they're sitting in Parliament. I have changed this dramatically to the point where we have consultations, and if you see a number of the recommendations that come through, that make it through the budget speech by way of policy or legislation, have come through consultation. I mean, for example, last year during the COVID period, I held numerous consultations on my farm, my farmhouse, meeting various stakeholders, and a number of those recommendations came out of the consultations on this, So we'll look forward to that. It's a different period, so we'll look at using the technology to have the town hall meetings. But nothing prevents or precludes any citizen or any organization from voluntarily submitting recommendations or ideas that they believe would help the economy of our country in these difficult times. So feel free, if you have any ideas, to write to the Minister of Finance, the Financial Secretary, and certainly we'll give consideration to those suggestions, as we have always done in the past. Yes?
PM, you've been on the record some time ago as it relates to the whole Haitian situation, the whole Haitian labor situation. I remember some time ago there was a whole issue at the Ministry of Labor. We're now hearing a lot of things going on. I don't want us to, because there seems to be an investigation, but you must be very concerned, or continue to be very concerned as to what you are hearing as it relates to that whole labor situation and the Haitians.
Well, it has been a concern for us for some time. You've seen the government take a number of measures to try to eliminate these practices that have been taking place, and the facilitation of Haitians outside of the prescribed process. This is why you have seen in times that we have suspended the program with a view to giving us time to enact and to put in place new measures. But every time you put new measures in, you have to keep reviewing and changing. So it's just a matter for all of us, everyone who is involved in the process, to understand that there are laws governing this, there's a process governing this, that there are prescribed fees. For these things. And I think when the government is taking action, people must allow the government to take action to protect its national security and the security of its neighbors. You know, and what we allowing to the Haitians to be subjected to, or the Haitians allowing themselves to be subject to these things, is wrong. I mean, this government has been very welcoming to Haitians. We've facilitated them. One of the measures we have taken to eliminate the issue of exploitation of the Haitians was to give them unfettered work permit. The law provides for you to have an employer making a recommendation on behalf of a request on behalf. We remove this so that people don't get exploited and so forth. So we've tried to protect the Haitians and the presence here. We welcome them. They are brothers and sisters. They're CARICOM citizens. And I think Dominica is one of the few countries within CARICOM which really facilitate Haitians in that regard. They come here, they have free education, they go to school, they have free health care like every one of us. We have been able to send some of the Haitians to universities, many parts of the world. We facilitate them because we believe that this is the right thing to do. These are the right things to do. But insofar as the regulations, insofar as the work permits and citizenship and all these things, people have to respect the process, and it's something that we have to continue reviewing. But it can be a challenge sometimes. But if everyone who has a responsibility in this process respects the process and respects the procedures and the laws, then I don't think we have any problems. Yeah.
PM, I have a question in relation to what's going on now in St. Vincent. We know that they're on high alert for possible eruption. Some of their residents may need to be located. We know that St. Lucia has offered help. Is Dominica considering offering help in that regard? Yeah,
well, we pray and hope that the activities in the volcano there in St. Vincent does not go beyond its current activity. So there will be no eruption taking place. I have had many discussions with the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines very early during the activities there. And I did in fact offer on behalf of the government and people of Dominica assistance to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that if they needed people to be evacuated and located, we are prepared to welcome a number of them. As a matter of fact, I had identified the Moroccan hotel where we could house them with all of the facilities, and the number of apartment buildings that we have at PICAD as a possible accommodation that the Treasury of Dominica would underwrite the cost associated with hosting anyone from St. Vincent who has to be evacuated from that particular locality. So St. Vincent is a long-standing friend of Dominica. It's part of the OECS, it's part of CARICOM, but we have very, very strong bilateral relations with St. Vincent. And whatever affects St. Vincent affects Dominica. Whatever benefits St. Vincent benefits Dominica, and vice versa. And so we stand in absolute and total solidarity with the government and people of St. Vincent during this difficult time. Okay, I want to finally say thank you, the media, for your questions. Very pointed questions. We appreciate this. We look forward to continued engagement, but nothing prevents you from reaching out to us as well if you have any questions to us. And I think we need to improve on our communication and so forth. But I really want to commend the Dominica national team, the football team. I think they have done well in representing us. And I look forward to the other matches. I am confident that they'll win. But we all have to continue to give them the support and to be constructive and positive, because we all can watch on TV and on Facebook and say, well, what should be done or how should be done. But I'm sure many of us who are saying that could last 5 minutes on the, and so forth. But we have to thank the management and the coaching team and all the support team for this. I also want to thank the farmers, who've been toiling the soil and supplying us with food, and the fishermen, all of the hucksters, the the folks the weavers, at the Rosa Market and along the streets of Dominica, who are involved in the sale of agricultural produce and fish. We thank them for their service. The vendors, all of them. And of course, we want to thank the folks at the abattoir, Mr. Etienne and his team, who are doing a fantastic job under the circumstance. We're going to be investing some money to improve on the abattoir, to make it more efficient. But at the end of the day, as the Minister of Agriculture rightly says, for all of these things to be successful, for the banana industry to be successful, we must eat ripe bananas instead of grapes from France. For the abattoir to be successful, we must eat the pork, those of you who eat pork, and eat chicken, those of us who eat chicken, produced through the abattoir. But if we buy that which comes from Brazil and from a place called Portsmouth in the United Kingdom, and we don't buy it there, then how is it successful? So if we decide to eat bananas, my friend, I can plant 5 acres of bananas for you tomorrow. But that's how we support the farmers. The success of farmers, the success of light manufacturing in Dominica, the success of anything we do in Dominica depend on the people of Dominica. The supermarkets, these are people that are interested in money. That's a free market economy. These are capitalist systems. They will sell that which the customers buy. So if we decide we're not going to buy the Afua bread and Ruben's Bakery and Suki's bread and all these wonderful people who make the bread, the guy who makes the bread with the wood on Pollersville Road there, and my sister friend from St. Joseph, Small Mercies, and we buy the bread that is in some plastic from another country within the Caribbean. What are we going to do? Or how do we buy bread that has to go in a container and get there when you can get the fresh bread from a 4 hour any time of the night or day? And when you compare this bread, my friend, come on. This thing doesn't see the oven yet, and they're selling us bread. And here in Dominica, we have some nice bread, and when to buy bread overseas, and we buy 2 little butter cakes in a little plastic. When we're making some of the best cakes in Dominica, there's so many artisans making cakes at their homes, and these cakes are cheap. I find they're very cheap, But we I don't know what it is, because we're developing and making progress. People feel better to go and push a trolley and a bunch of imported stuff rather than stuff that we produce here in Dominica with better quality and so forth. So it's up to us, because people can criticize, but what is your contribution? If criticism would develop a country, we would have billions of dollars in this country. Billions of dollars in the country. Unfortunately, destructive criticism costing us millions. Costing us millions, rather than constructive. So this is the Holy Week. Let us reflect on the life of Jesus Christ on earth, and why He died for us, and to ask ourselves, are we treating Dominica the way that Christ was treated? And this government, are we treating the government the way we treated Christ? We've done so much for this country, but people see every fault in helping the citizens, especially the poor. God bless you this Holy Week. May the grace of God and the blood of Jesus cover us as we continue to do our work as citizens of this country. Thank you. Thank you.